Welcome back to Bumblebee. I'm your host Taylor McWaters. Here are the top 10 cursed tombs in history that should have never been opened. Yeah, no national treasure going on here. Keep them closed. Kicking off our list at number 10. Israel Cursed Tomb. Here we go, right off the hop. A secret tomb was discovered in Israel only a month ago. Now this is the first time a tomb has been found at the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 65 years. Now the actual cave itself was discovered only a year ago, but these smaller chambers are being found recently, as like a month ago recently. And the tomb found came along with a message. Awesome, we love those. It vows to curse anybody who would open the grave, and this message is also written in blood red, so yeah. Can we not open this one, maybe? Last time we had a black sarcophagus in Egypt, people were sticking their heads in for no reason, just to see what's up. And then, you know, a plague happened. So, number 9, Polish King Curse. Some of you may remember this, or your parents might so ask them about this at dinner. Yeah, make it weird tonight. Ask them about a Polish king curse tonight while you're eating food. Back in 1973, a team of archaeologists were jazzed when they uncovered an ancient 15th century tomb. The tomb of the Polish king at the time, King Casimir IV Jagiellon. Now media was of course all over this discovery, as they should be, it was exciting. Now everyone was of course making jokes about a curse. You kinda have to, right? We're all thinking about it. What if there's a curse? I don't know. Open it though, still. Some team members involved ended up dying after the discovery. It was a little odd. There were a few who said it was due to a curse, but the sudden illnesses were in fact caused by deadly fungi inside the tomb. So it still was the tomb's fault, but it wasn't a curse per se. It was breathed in, and that's what led to these researchers' untimely death. Number 8, King Tut's Curse. Here we go. Since we're on the topic of illnesses or curses, let's go back 50 more years, shall we? To the legendary discovery of King Tut's tomb in 1922. This discovery is what made everyone, so paranoid when that Polish king curse came out, right? This discovery and what followed is the main reason we believe in mummy curses today. One member of the expedition, George Herbert, passed away suddenly 6 weeks after they opened King Tut's chamber. It was not toxic mold, it wasn't a curse, but rather it was a mosquito bite on the cheek. He got blood poisoning from a mosquito bite, that's all it was. I mean, I'm sure digging up bodies from the past and opening the tombs up doesn't help karma in general, but it wasn't a curse written in red. Not this time. Number 7, a strange resting place. Ancient burial grounds. Okay, these tombs, they come in many different shapes and sizes. Some can be these massive Great Pyramids, and others can be a shallow cave system. Sometimes there's ancient history right below your feet, and you'd never know. In St. Augustine, for example, the remains of a donkey were found buried underground. And judging from the skull and the bones and the placement, something was afoot here. It had clearly been hunted down by humans and placed there purposefully. That's not the mysterious part at all. The mysterious part is that all the bones have been carefully separated and there's no marks to suggest that any tools were used. So researchers believe that this thing wasn't even used for food. So what was it? The limbs were placed to point north and south. That's it. They used this donkey as a compass. How rude is that? What? Donkeys in that area of Florida in the 17th century, that's not bizarre at all. But the way the bones were buried, north and south, that's very odd. That's very Game of Thronesy. You know what I'm saying? What's the message here? What's the point? What's the point? Besides north and south, of course. Number 6, Tortoise Tomb. Okay, somebody called Mario. We got a lot of shells to explain. Okay, pal? Back in 2005 in northern Israel, a tomb of a shaman, who we believe was a 45-year-old woman at the time of her passing, was found in a cave. It was a cave/tomb. Like I said, many different shapes and sizes. There were 28 other skeletons as well, and it appears they had a 6-stage burial. There were beautiful decorations to suggest such, but something that really stood out here were the 86 tortoise bodies discovered in the corner of the tomb. What was going on here? What did we miss? I have FOMO, but I'm not sure why. Was this an ancient feast or a long-lost sacrifice? Either way, poor guys. Kicking off our list at number 10, a cursed phone number. The song 867-5309/Jenny has been stuck in my head for about 18 years now. It's a classic. That song is a banger. Great jingle too. Imagine if a pizza place figured that number out first. Would have been game over. A cursed phone number, what are we talking about here? This phone number apparently cursed is 359-888 and then a bunch of 8s afterwards, okay? What's the deal here? Anybody who's had this phone number in the last 20 years or so, apparently they've all met their fate in a weird way. CEO of a Bulgarian phone company, he got cancer at 48. And then 2 criminals later on, both of their deaths were a little bit more mysterious than cancer. All these deaths that happened were within 4 years of each other. That's the, curse aspect of it all. The phone number was suspended, so nobody's able to use it now. Maybe it was a cursed number, or maybe the number had ties to crime. 867-5309 is still stuck in my head. Number 9. The organ. Music is said to bring life into the room, but this time it's a bit too literal for my liking. There is a real organ in the Occult Museum. This belonged to Ed and Lorraine Warren for quite a while, the paranormal investigators. Of course, all these things are found in a haunted house. In one way or another, it's haunted or cursed, as are all these in this list. This organ apparently would play by itself throughout the night. In total, there were 3 different incidents where Ed thought somebody had broken into the museum because he heard the organ being played, but by the time he arrived in a panic, the room was empty. Classic. Nothing had been touched, there was no visitors. Of course, it was just a cursed piano. Nice. A priest then came to bless the museum and the music eventually stopped. But before her passing, Lorraine Warren said to USA Today that the prayers do work, and they blind the evil much like an electric fence does for a dog. Number 8. Photograph of Bathsheba Sherman. You always see these videos of UFOs and they're filmed with like a BlackBerry curve. It's just rubbish, it's horrible quality. There's never clear evidence of anything nowadays, right? But we may just have a clear photo with the real Bathsheba Sherman, the witch in the original Conjuring film, that real person in real life. Yeah, we have a real photo of a real witch. This is crazy. This photo is from the Perrin family farmhouse back when it was still the Arnold estate. This was 1885, so the witch was most likely in her 70s at this time, and this witch lived next door to said farm, and although we'll never really know for sure, many believe she's the lady in the middle closest to the camera. Also, the fact that she's wearing some sort of mask and she's standing by herself and looks like a witch, I don't know, definitely her, most definitely her. I feel like nobody wants to stand next to a literal witch, It's like a big radius around her. That's how you know it's her. Imagine doing a silly one with Bathsheba Sherman. You're like, hey, bunny ears, don't curse me. Number 7, the Bano Vas. This vase comes from the 15th century. It was made for an excellent wedding gift, but the night before, the bride sadly lost her life with the vase still in her hands, so a lot of questions, right? The family of course kept it afterwards, but as the vase was passed down the family line, a pattern began to unveil itself. Whomever held possession of the Bano Vas died shortly after in a weird way. Now keep in mind, this was the 15th century, okay? The average lifespan was already 30 to 40 years old. But after this many deaths in the family, it was packed away for good, okay? Or so they thought. This vase showed up again in history in 1988 alongside a single note. The note was pretty to the point. It said, "Beware, this vase brings death." End of note. Whoever found it was like, okay. And then continued on with it. Yeah, they kept the vase, didn't heed the warning, and then it was auctioned for over $2,000, sans note. Yeah. The pharmacist who won the auction, well, you guessed it, they passed away within months. Number 6, ghost boots. These boots are made for haunting, and that's just what they'll do. Yeah, I put a pair of boots on this list. That's where we're at now. Let's do it. This is a photo of a young lady and it may look like a classic family trip, but upon closer inspection, it seems like somebody is standing behind her. Now, of course, tracing this photo back to its origins, her father said nobody was behind her at this time, that it was taken, because that would be pretty weird, right? Hey, stand right here in an open field, thanks. Hey, can you move please? There's an open field. Thanks. It's a little weird. This shot was taken at Zushi Kanagawa in Japan. You can see boots and what looks like clothing sticking out from behind her elbow. Father said, "I took a few photos. When I was looking through them at night, I noticed the boots behind her. I took several in the same spot, but only one of these photos had the boots." Yeah, you always see that in movies, right? They're always going through these photos at night at like 2 a.m. Then they find something scary. It's never at Walmart in the middle of the day, you know what I mean? It's always scary in a dark kitchen. Ugh. What would you do? I would freak out. And he freaked out, obviously. He showed a friend, and then said friend posted it on Reddit, hence why we're here now. Haunted boots. The more you know. Number 10, hunting cave painting. Okay, this one right off the hop comes to us from an astonishing 44,000 years ago. It was found in the wall of a cave on an Indonesian island. Now, researchers were able to date this painting that far back due to the fact that the cave it was found in is still a living cave, which means that rock formations have been growing over the painting, and being able to date those, they know that it's at least 43,900 years old. Nice. Guy just smells a leaf and he's like, oh, it's old. It's really old. But it could potentially be even older. Who knows, right? Hard to say. The painting itself features what looks like a hunting scene with 4 wild pigs, some small buffalo, and a group of really small hunters with spears. Nothing too crazy. Now the strange part is these hunters, other than the size, they're all human and animal hybrids. Yeah, they look like something from Marvel Comics. They all have elongated faces like an animal snout, and a lot of them have tails. So not really sure what's going on here. There's actually one tiny human that has a beak. So it's interesting, but again, we have no idea. We don't really know why they depicted the hunters this certain way or why the animals are so much larger than them also. But there's also no other usual signs of human life found in the cave, like bones or hunting tools, anything like that. This cave may have acted like some sort of special or sacred spot for them, but a sacred spot that only holds a strange hunting painting? I don't know. It's a little bit creepy. We need to know more, but unfortunately, it's 44,000 years old, so we'll never know. Number 9, giants in Egyptian paintings. This one is less of a specific painting and more so just a feature that is seen in a lot of ancient Egyptian artwork. So I figured I'd give it a mention, especially in this list. There's a common theme of giants in a lot of these paintings. Now this may have been a representation of people being a higher status, or they could have been literally describing a god. But many believe that this may be a sign that there really were giants in ancient Egypt. And considering how strange the pyramids are to us still to this day, and how little we really know about their construction, there's actually a fair amount of steam behind this theory online, so I have to mention it. How can we say for sure that there weren't giants? Know what I mean? In 2017, researchers also found the supposed remains of Sa-Nakht, an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. This also could be the oldest known giant. It is a skeleton with gigantism. So again, a lot of history in between that we'd love to know, but we don't, because all we have is bones and temples, and we're like, no idea. No clue what happened. Number 8, vandalized cave painting. Ooh, here we go. This is what you don't do. Here we go. This painting is the oldest known painting in India, and it was found on the walls and ceilings of the St Giovano cave. Now, it was originally believed that this painting was first created in the 1st century BCE. Now, the paintings depict things like human figures, fish, elephants, birds, different floral patterns, all that kind of stuff. It is said that another artist ended up drawing over the original, which is an incredible shame, and honestly, just a dick move in general. Even today, we don't do that with graffiti. If a graffiti artist does that today, it's game over. I played Grand Theft Auto, it doesn't end well. These paintings have been severely vandalized and a lot of the areas are in quite bad shape. There's something about paintings, especially paintings that are this old, that makes me feel like they should just not be touched, let alone painted over at all. Because the St Giovano is a rare site. It's a Jain temple of the Pandyan era, so yeah. If you did this, you're definitely cursed. If you paint it over, yeah, you're cursed. For sure cursed. Don't touch things. Stop touching things. We can't even breathe on some of these cave paintings anymore. You know what I mean? We can't literally look at them because our breath is gonna break them apart. So just leave them. Number 7, Brazil caves. This is an interesting cave painting because of the fact that it's widely debated when exactly it was created. Yeah, most of the time we're all arguing about what the image is, you know, because it's art. But this time we're talking about when the image was. Haha, mixing it up a little bit, how fancy. The Serra de Capivara National Park is located in eastern Brazil, and it is the home to a bunch of different rock shelters that are decorated with incredible and elaborate cave paintings. This area includes scenes of rituals, hunting, trees and animals, and some scientists believe that the oldest of the paintings date back to at least 25,000 years ago. So long, I can't even fathom how long that is. Now there are others who argue this because that would go against what we currently believe is the date of human settlement in the Americas. So there's art telling us one thing, and then there's people telling us another. Then there's me telling you both, going, hey, hit that thumbs up, subscribe. I'm just in the middle of history being like, hey, check it out. Here's an ad. Number 6, action comics. Okay, I'll take a little bit of a left turn, you know, talking about paintings and art. I'm trying to blend one in here. With all these new superhero movies coming out every other week, it seems, they all share a similar multiverse theme. But what if comic books actually predicted the future at one point in history? Well, back in 1944, a year before the Hiroshima attack, Action Comics published this issue. This super adventure has Lex Luthor investing this, you know, explosive powered by, you guessed it, nuclear energy. The US government actually reached out at this point. Obviously, a comic book company didn't know any of this, and their comic was so accurate that the government asked them to delay the issue. Yeah, you can release it still, sure, just, you know, after the fact. No spoilers, I guess. How shady is that? A year later, America dropped these explosives on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it changed the world forever. John Byrne, famous comic book writer, he's pretty much known for all his comics seemingly coming true later in real life. He also wrote an issue for DC Comics where Superman saves a space crew right after the shuttle breaks apart after launch, and right after this issue was released, sadly, the Challenger accident, that's when it occurred. Yeah, a lot of creepy coincidences aligned with art throughout history.
Number 10, Blickling Hall. the birthplace of Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, and for certain not the last. He had a few after her. Unfortunately for the young lass, she wouldn't last too long, and after failing to give her husband a male heir to the throne, their marriage fell apart. It's a classic story in all medieval marriages, how it goes. And like all marriages that fall apart, there was no saving it. Go ahead, try, I dare you. And when King Henry couldn't get the divorce he so desired, he convicted her of adultery and other crimes, where soon after she was beheaded. Ooh, scandalous. It's said that on the ground of Blinking Hall her ghost remains, headless, aimlessly wandering the halls. Oh dear. Number 9. Hji Castle. All the way in the beautiful land of Japan, where cherry blossoms bloom and blow. Atop the Hyogo Prefecture sits the beautiful Hji Castle. Ooh. While it stands like a monument to feudal Japan architecture, she holds a deep dark tale. A servant of the castle named Okiku. She had been blamed for breaking some good dishes, like the same kind of good china my mom said not to touch, but I always wondered what the heck's the point of having them anyway if we're not going to use them, Mom. Well, she was so distraught that she manually checked out of life. Ooh. When the guards found her in the kitchen, they dumped her down the well, as you do. Just procedure back then, I guess. It is said that she still haunts the castle today and can be heard counting the dishes she was accused of breaking, followed by sobbing and shrieking. No thanks. I don't know if you guys know, I don't like horror stuff, I don't like ghosts. Nope, not going, sorry. Number 8, Frankensteins Castle. Yes, that's right, the castle that inspired Mary Shelley's horror masterpiece, or so I'm told. I use Cliff Notes. It's a great story, but kind of a tough read in my opinion. Yeah, I use Cliff Notes, it's pretty rough. The actual real-life castle is thought to be haunted by a man named Johann Conrad Dippel. Besides that name being very scary, the castle has many dark secrets. Dippel had this weird thing where he was a mad scientist, very similar to Dr. Frankenstein in the book. His ultimate science goal, like something out of Call of Duty Zombies, was to raise the dead and reanimate the life. Yes, come back to life, my pretties. Oh yes, oh yes. I don't know, that's I imagine he sounds like, I have no idea. To do this, he would seek out the freshly deceased and bring their body parts back to conduct not so family friendly experiments. After achieving his goal, he thought he would discover the secret to immortality. Now, after he drank one of his own experimental potions and elixirs, whatever you want to call that, he shortly passed away. Today it's said that his spirit can still be seen on the roof, watching over the other spirits of the graves that he disturbed. Yes, my little pretties, yes! Number 7, H.H. Holmes. While not a castle in the stone and brick sense, this place is certainly big enough to be a castle and has lots of trap doors like a castle. And there's a really weird guy who's bloodthirsty that owns the building like a castle and a king, so yeah, it checks out. H.H. Holmes was the owner of the often called Red Rum Castle. That's backwards for Murder Castle. Basically, it was a very large hotel that he fitted to his bloodthirsty needs. Trap doors, hidden staircases, and areas allowing him to sneak about and take his victims down to the basement where they would await a most painful destruction. While the building is gone now, after Holmes was gone when the building was still there, many of his victims still roamed the halls. He confessed to 27 of those disappearances. Though some suspect it's higher and some suspect he doesn't classify as a serial unalifer, even though I don't know why, because 27 not a big enough number for you? Doesn't make any sense. Or is that H.H. Holmes saying that himself? Number 6, Dracula's Castle. I don't know, that's what the vampire sounds like. A lot of impressions today. Vlad the Impaler was an awful and evil tyrant from the late 1400s who defended Castle Bran against his enemies and did so quite horrifically. However, it goes beyond that. Never shy to use violence to get his point, his point across. He was a ghoulish figure who was thought to be a vampire himself. They might have been right, he was pretty weird. Yes, he was the basis for Count Dracula. Dracula might be scary, but he's got nothing on this guy. Vlad was known to impale people alive on spikes and logs that were, spike-like, and leave them to slowly perish away on full display. It's said that the bloodthirsty vampire can still be found lurking the halls of his old castle. I dare you to come in.
Number 5. The Sitting Man. Okay, of all the tombs to find, this one would be the most horrifying. This would be so jarring to stumble across, okay? Buckle up. Back in 2005, researchers found a Mayan tomb in Honduras from the 5th century, okay? It's a long time ago. And the body inside was not lying down. It wasn't a pile of bones pointing east or west this time. Rather, it was in a chair, sitting up, like a villain from Zelda. How scary would that be? I mean, it's beautiful, but that's jarring to stumble across, you know what I mean? Whoever was the first person to look and see that, brave soul, that's all I'm saying. The body found, it appears to be an elite member of the Mayan Empire. He passed away, we think, around 650 AD. Yeah, the guy gets propped up in a chair. That's awesome. His legs were crossed and he was rocking jade jewelry. This was very royal. And the tomb itself was actually upright as well. It's common fear to be buried alive, but in this case, you'd have plenty of room. You'd be like, oh, we're good. These types of tombs are actually quite rare to find, but the fact that this one is also in great condition and there's somebody sitting cross-legged inside, double rare. Here we go. Number 4, the Terracotta Army. This is, I mean, talk about curses. Oh boy. The tomb of Emperor Qi Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Okay, in this tomb, we can find 8,000 statues. This one is quite loaded. I almost made this number 1 just out of principle. But they all have unique carvings on their face, as if to suggest these are all custom statues, all representing an individual from that long ago. All 8,000 of them. The emperor believed that after he had passed away, he would have the spirits of his enemies to face, so he wanted to be prepared even after death. The emperor decided to close the tomb before the workers even had a chance to get out. It was horrible. He was worried his enemies had found out, so there's of course lots of statues down there and a lot of dark history, just all piled into one. I would never go near this. I think the Mummy 3 is about this tomb. It didn't do so well, but yeah. Scary concept. Number 3, message from Egyptian Afterlife. We're all curious what happens after you die, of course, but nobody celebrated the end of your days like ancient Egyptians did, right? It's beautiful. Like I've mentioned before on this channel, they would have these fake painted doors. They would leave valuables. Any new tomb that we discover provides more hints as to what lies beyond, right? An ancient necropolis was discovered only a few years ago, again in Egypt. It contains dozens of coffins and a necklace that holds a message from the afterlife. Okay, now we're talking. This site is around 2,000 years old and they're in the process of excavating it as we speak, as I mansplain to you about these tombs. But so far the tombs and artifacts found, officials think, belong to an ancient priestess. A message from the afterlife is pretty spectacular, but what does it say exactly? Well, we're still waiting to find out. These things take time, you know? Number 2, mythical carvings. Back in 2014, a 1,700-year-old cemetery was discovered along the Silk Road, which are these ancient trade routes, ancient highways rather, connecting China and the Roman Empire. Now in the city of Kucha, now in northwest China, the cemetery was found along with 10 ancient tombs, one of which was referred to as M3. M3 didn't have any haunting messages this time around, but it did contain several carvings of mythical creatures. Creatures that were once alive? Question mark. There's the white tiger of the west, the black turtle of the north, the vermilion bird of the south, so far so lovely, and then there's the azure dragon of the east, a little bigger, a little bit more mighty. These mythical carvings represent different seasons and the heavens, but could the other 6 carvings mean depictions of hell? Probably, possibly. And finally, number 1, the Ring of Sekenianas. One ring to rule them all. And by rule, I mean curse you and your entire family. Don't touch this. This is why you don't steal from ancient tombs. Has to be number 1. This 12-gram gold ring, for starters, looks beautiful. And secondly, it's massive. Its diameter was 25 millimeters, so unless you were wearing some sort of infinity gauntlet, she's probably gonna fall off your little Jack Skellington fingers, you know what I mean? The ring had first been found in 1785. A farmer was plowing a field in Silchester Village, a village west of London known for its grim history, because in 45 AD, ancient Romans invaded that site, and come the 7th century, it was completely abandoned. And probably pretty cursed. The ring was mighty and even had an inscription on it, a Latin inscription, of course. It read, Senecio vivas in diem. And when 1929 rolled around, new details surfaced, or resurfaced rather. The data from the ring matched an excavation that was done in the early 1900s less than 100 miles away, in a place called Lydney. That's where this ring is from. At the same site, however, a tablet was found recalling the Celtic god of healing and hunting, and how his favorite ring got stolen. I'm connecting some stories here. Uh-oh, I may have stolen something I shouldn't have. If this rings a bell, yes, Lord of the Rings was inspired by this exact legend. The tablet also says, may he who bears the name of Senekianus not have health until he brings the ring back to the Temple of Nodens. Yeah, let's get that ring back ASAP Rocky. That would be great. I'll be a lot quicker than Lord of the Rings. I'll be a lot quicker than 3 movies. I'll tell you that. Where's this temple? I'll put it in my Uber right now. I'm on my way. Number 5, the Anguished Man. Historical paintings are cool. I guess. I don't know, they're pretty interesting. But this is the first time I've read up on the Anguished Man myself, and I wish I didn't, to be honest. It's pretty unsettling. It's now considered one of the most haunted objects in the world, and it looks like the part 2. It looks like it's from a horror movie. This oil painting was created by, of course, an unknown artist, but the actual paint here used in the painting is mixed with blood, real blood. Their legit DNA is in this painting, whoever it is. Their blood, sweat, and tears. Great. Not much is known of the artist as they passed away shortly after, but the current owner is Sean Robinson from Cumbria, England. His grandmother had given him said painting. There wasn't much known beforehand. Maybe she just found it at an auction, whatever. But his grandmother did warn him that it was cursed. Yeah, here's some Werther's original, and also here's a cursed painting. Enjoy. Sean had to leave it in his basement at first because his wife wasn't on board. More than fair. I'd be like, no, can we not? Can we turn it around? Thanks. But when the basement randomly flooded, he had to move it upstairs at that point, which is already pretty creepy. Now after, the couple heard crying or screams or whispering, things you don't want to hear alone in a house with a haunted painting coming from the room with the painting. It got so bad Robinson uploaded time-lapse footage to YouTube in 2011, and it shows the door closing by itself next to the painting. Also, yeah, keep this in the basement or flood it, I don't care. I agree with the missus here. Number 4, music box. We had to include one of the creepiest elements of the Conjuring movie because it's a real thing. Director James Wan wanted to use the music box in the first film because, you know, mirrors and creepy tones make for great suspense and all that jazz. But this was also a real haunted artifact from their real haunted house. Today the box is safely stored in the Warren's Occult Museum, like I mentioned before, just a fun house of scary that you should definitely never touch, alongside other items that look more or less normal, right? One of which is the real Annabelle doll. This part of the movie actually scared the shit out of me. Any mirror scene, I can't do it. I end up eating my hoodie. They always do it slow too. I hate movie scenes that include mirrors. But this is real life though, you can't forget that. This music box actually caused a lot of trouble for these poor girls. Specifically April, youngest of the Perrin family. She found this unique antique in the house and then she used it to communicate to another spirit. A spirit that just happened to be named Rory. Yeah, it's a great haunted name, Rory. Nice, it's not friendly at all. In the movie, this was a happy ending, whatever, but in real life, the Bathsheba Sherman case was never resolved. Number 3, the Hope Diamond Curse. Coming from the 1660s, here we go. This curse began when a gem dealer named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought this large diamond when visiting India. Or so he said, he bought it. The origins of the diamond were unknown, but it didn't matter. This beauty was just sitting there. Well, later on, after he got the diamond, rumors started spreading throughout Europe and the United States that Tavernier actually stole the diamond from a statue of a Hindu goddess. Yeah, that sounds a little more on the nose. That's a bit more accurate. Little different than his story, but sadly a little more believable. The newspapers actually kicked this one off by publishing the Hope Diamond as an ancient curse. That ought to help, right? That spreads the word, I guess. The diamond at one point ended up in the hands of King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. Now, if you don't know about them, they were, they had some rough history happen with their heads being off their body and stuff. They lost their lives during the French Revolution, to say the least. The guillotine Dream Team, that's what we call them. The stone then went to Lord Francis Hope come 1839, and by that point it was deemed cursed. This is when it got the name the Hope Diamond, right? They ended up selling said diamond shortly after being reduced to poverty, and then Evelyn Walsh McLean bought the stone in 1912. Shortly after that, her son was killed in a car accident. When the stone was delivered to its final and current home, the Smithsonian, back in 1958, the driver who was delivering the package was later hit by a truck. Now he survived, but shortly after his house caught fire. Moral of the story, you don't need diamonds, for more reasons than one. Number 2, the Busby Stoop Chair. Coming from 1702, 10 years after the Salem witch trials, so take this one with a grain of salt. People made odd choices back then, okay? Women were witches because they knew math, and chairs were evil. Welcome to 1702, good luck. Englishman Thomas Busby had some issues with his father-in-law. He didn't handle them well, so now he had to be hanged for it. Yeah, he You can't commit crimes to resolve problems. It's not a good thing. Can't just kill people for no reason, Thomas. What is this, 1692? He was hanged near the Humble Inn, which is an ironic name, but a chair that was nearby is now said to hold the spirit of one Thomas Busby. If you sit on this chair, you are set to die in a frightful accident. So the chair was declared haunted, but did anything actually happen? Yeah, locals say during World War II, airmen from a nearby base came to the pub, and those who sat on it never returned. And then in the 70s, more accidents were connected, but they still kept it around until 1978. Yeah, it stayed in the inn for that long, until it was donated to the Thirsk Museum. It's not even a rocking chair either. It looks like it should be a rocking chair, but it's not a rocking chair. That's the scariest part in my opinion. You try and lean back, you're like, oh, I really thought it was gonna rock there. Damn, it's disappointing. And finally, number 1, a ghost caught in a photograph. Yeah, this one ought to end the list in a pretty bizarre way. Doesn't matter where or when, but odds are you've seen this photo at some point in your life. You know when you see a photo, sometimes you just get bad vibes, like it registers in your brain as something scary but also real. Like you want to find something that looks fake about this photo, but it's tough. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It's a young lad with glowing white eyes, kind of hard to miss. It was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared, and it makes it even creepier that the boy looks like he's peeking around the corner. Nice, just hiding from you in his invisible ghost land. We love it. A photographer named Gene Campbell took this photo, and Gene at the time was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show, and many believe this is the ghost of one John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there prior to that 1974 event. Yeah, we're still trying to figure this out. What do you guys think? Elaborate hoax, or perhaps this is one solid piece of evidence that the Amityville house is indeed haunted and ghosts are indeed real. Number 5, the Madonna with St Giovano. This painting is currently in the Hall of Hercules in the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. Probably fucked one of those words up, but you know, I'm just Canadian and I'm gonna try my best. Thank you. The painting shows the Virgin Mary, you know, infant Jesus, of course, and St. John. But we can also see this object floating in the sky in the background. What's even more interesting is that a man is looking up at said object in the sky. I'm not saying a UFO, but you know, what the fuck is that? It's definitely a UFO, right? I don't know. He's even covering his eyes from the sun in order to get a better look at this object, while his dog appears to bark at it as well. You know, when a dog sees something in the sky, that's how you know it's real. Art historians believe the flying saucer looking thing is an angel. That's what my mom looks like, apparently. That's a terrifying angel. It looks like Ultron in the sky floating. If angels look like that, I don't want anything to do with the afterlife or angels. Thanks so much. Others believe aliens, of course, and also there's others that think it's a future version of us visiting our past. And we just happened to photobomb, you know, this painter in history. The thing just came and landed and waited for like 46 hours while the guy painted and was like, photobomb, see ya. Know what I mean? I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm looking at. If you have any thoughts or concerns or comments, comment down below. Help me out. I don't know. It looks like an alien ship. I'm terrified. It's pretty creepy. I don't know. That's a weird painting. It just looks like a flying weird ship with like pegs coming out of it. Number 4, the NASA Liines. Massive, but definitely art. We've all heard of alien crop circles at one point or another. I remember watching the movie Signs when I was young, and then I couldn't sleep for like 13 years. Yeah, that scene did it. That scene really did it for me for like 46 years of my life. So this next one freaked me out a lot. Just 200 miles southeast of Peru, we can find hundreds of markings etched into the earth. They're these massive pieces of art, like crop circles, but almost more intimidating, dare I say. The biggest ground graffiti spans over 1,200 feet, and many believe this was an ancient ritual for water. Given its location, that theory actually checks out. Another theory written in 1968 in Eric von Daniken's book, Chariots of the Gods, suggests that ancient Nazca was a site for alien visitors, leaving behind, of course, knowledge in the form of these massive doodles. Like, thanks so much. That's really gonna help us. What about like money for, you know, tuition? Maybe you can leave those next time. Maybe some gas. Do you have any gas? Maybe drop some gas before you leave. Knowledge is great too, and we love those, but that's not paying the bills. Number 3, lizard hands. In 2002, in a cave discovered in the western deserts of Egypt, researchers found tons of paintings on the walls, thought to be dated back to at least 8,000 years ago, if not even further. Again, I can't even fathom that time. This painting features animals, humans, and sometimes headless creatures, which led to the cave being nicknamed the Cave of the Beasts. But there are also hundreds of handprints outlined, which is on one hand very cool and, you know, beautiful historically, but on the other hand, pun intended, little creepy. The most unusual of the handprints, however, are these 13 that are extremely tiny. Now, this would be endearing and very cute, but what was once thought of, you know, little tiny baby hands, little baby hands, those are actually not human at all. An anthropologist realized this in 2006 when she realized that these were much too small and the fingers were much too long. So yeah, definitely lizards. It is also thought that these handprints may belong to lizards or perhaps baby crocodiles, but we still aren't really sure because again, thousands of years ago. It is definitely interesting and kind of fascinating to see all these handprints on the walls of the cave, of course, but it definitely carries a mystery behind that we'll never know the real answers to. Imagine holding an alligator up for that long to do prints. That'd be so scary. Just breathing its stinky alligator breath. You're like, ah, stop. Does that alligator turn? I've seen that on Reddit quite a bit. A lot of people getting fucked up by alligators lately on Reddit. Number 2, Medusa. Next painting comes from Caravaggio. We all know the story of Medusa, right? The woman with snakes for hair that when you look at her, you turn yourself into stone. That good, nice bedtime story we all remember. And this painting really captures her essence and beauty, right? That look in her eyes. It's almost like you get chills just from this depiction, right? This painting was meant to be a depiction of the defeat of Medusa. So nice happy ending for us here watching at home. The legend goes that Perseus, who was the son of Zeus, he was given a shield by Athena. Now he took said shield to battle Medusa, and he managed to outsmart her by letting her catch a glimpse of her own face in the reflection of the shield. Yeah, gotcha. You played yourself. And then she turned herself to stone, and this is when he took his sword and then beheaded her. Yeah, he kind of off with your snake head. This painting was created by Michelangelo Merisi di Caravaggio in 1597, and it was actually his second of the kind. So yeah, we love a man with a theme, apparently. Just loves headless Medusas. I just beat God of War a day ago, so this painting gives me all the emotions and all the feels in real life. It makes me believe a woman with snakes for a head actually existed. I don't know. Do we believe that? I kind of believe that. Don't look behind you. She's behind you. Number 1, the hands resist him. Okay, here we go. Finally, last one on this list. You've made it. You've been brave. You've been bold. Hit that thumbs up. Not for me, but for yourself. A little for me and us on the channel and all the hard work we put into it, but also for yourself. Painter Bill Stoneham created this work of art back in 1972, and it's most famously belonged to actor John Marley from The Godfather. He's the guy who wakes up with the horse's head in his bed. Him. Yeah, you're like, oh, got it. There he is. He got this painting at one point in history, but later it was found on eBay all of a sudden with claims that it was cursed from an anonymous previous seller. Okay, a little interesting. The painting was found abandoned in an alley behind a brewery, which is pretty promising off the hop. Almost immediately, the family who bought it claimed to have seen people in the painting move. And on top of that, apparently the figures would leave said painting and then mess up the house and then go back in. That's a bold excuse for a messy house. Should have used that when I was younger. Yeah, I cleaned up earlier, but it must have been those painting guys. They came and had a party and then went back into their sailboat where they froze again for the night.
Number 5, Castle Loma. For those that don't live in Canada or have never been to Toronto, there's a castle in the middle of the city. Yes, it's a real castle, and yes, I realize how that sounds, but there's a castle in the middle of the city. I don't know. Constructed in 1914 by Sir Henry Pellet for him and his wife. It cost him a fortune. Ooh, I forgot to put the number in it. I believe it was $1 million. That was a lot of money back then. Anyway, but it seems from the very start it was strange. For one, this architecture was outdated, even back then. Of course it was outdated, it was hundreds of years ago. Its massive size and what happened shortly after. This is not the case of a man who lived here all his life and passed, because he was forced to leave the home just a few short years later due to financial losses. However, today you might be able to find the White Lady ghost, as seen on the second floor and most recently in the basement. Now, the running theory is that she was one of the many servants who perished from influenza during the time, and if there's anything we know, it's that floating lady ghost wearing white are the spookiest. Am I wrong? No, I'm not. That's science. I know it is. I'm a scientist. They'll put a beaker beside me. That's how you know I'm a scientist. Yep. Number 4, Edinburgh Castle. Oh hey, what time I'll bust this one out again, sir. Oh, you lot, Edinburgh, Scotland, and a most beautiful castle. I'll stop doing that. She's been there for hundreds of years, and statistically speaking, is one of the most attacked places on planet Earth, with a total of 26 over a span of a few hundred years. Apparently, that was enough to make it haunted. What's more interesting than that is a young lad who was tasked with seeing where a newly discovered tunnel led to. To make sure he didn't get lost, he took his bagpipes with him and was instructed to play so people above could tell where he was and what progress he was making. At first things were going great. He made his way into the tunnel and the people above could hear him playing. This was followed by a sudden and immediate stop. Ooh, horror. At first folks were too scared to go in after him and see what became of the red-haired lad who played the pipes. When the courage was mustered to see what actually happened, there wasn't a single trace of him. Not even the pipes, sir. Nothing left. That's so sad. Poor pipe playing boy. I'm so sad for him. Number 3, Winchester Mansion. I'm not personally sure how haunting works or ghost or like the great beyond works. I might be Canadian, but I'm certainly no Dan Aykroyd or Ghostbuster. I just don't know. The Winchester Manor is quite the peculiar case. It belonged to the Winchester family of Wild West fame, the very same who supplied the big irons for every coach in America. When Mr. Winchester had passed, the family fortune and estate was left to his wife, Sarah Winchester. Now, what may have started as a large home and mansion, over time became a castle. Seriously, look at this thing, it's crazy. Sarah had add-on after add-on added to the mansion. After a while, these add-ons got stranger and stranger. Staircases that led nowhere, trap doors, doors that led to large falls, and some doors that just led to nowhere. It's very weird. Why all these strange things? Well, that's because she claimed that the lives her husband's work had taken were haunting the castle, and she had to build them to deter the ghosts that haunted her. Boy, that's insanity right there. That's just craziness. Number 2, Husa Castle. While we don't have an official name for our sixth sense, some people just have that extra spidey sense. I know I don't. Like when a Nigerian prince sends you an email asking for your help. Sounds pretty sus. But more interesting than that is animals. I swear I've seen my household cat act different in a thunderstorm. They just know. Or cows that lay down right before it rains. It's weird. How do they know that? They don't have TV or a meteorologist to tell them it's going to rain, so how do they know? Well, it just makes sense because on the walls of Husa Castle in Czech Republic, animals won't go near it. Legend has it that it's the gate to hell, and a dragon was even spotted there one time. Well, if that's not your favorite kind of ghost story, there's more. During World War II, Germans took over the castle and used it as a base to conduct only the kind of experiments German scientists could do without adult supervision. To this day, it's recommended to stay away as you don't know what dark spirits may be lurking. Number 1, Leap Castle, Ireland. This bad boy dates back all the way to the 1200s and was under constant siege, as castles were known to be for the time period. It's kind of the reason why they were built. As this castle hosts a few creatures of the evening. One supposedly is a priest that perished in one of the many sieges and seeks his bloodthirsty revenge on those who come near the chapel. Won't catch me there. Another is a foul beast called It. Possibly related to the Stephen King one, I'm not sure. No one is completely sure of its origin, but it's said you will smell its rotting flesh before you even see it. And lastly, most disturbingly, is a mother who waits in the ruins of the castle wielding a blade, ready to take revenge on those who stole her kin away. Because like I said, ladies in dresses and floating, that's the scariest. I don't like that. No thank you.